Namaskar guys, I'm Neil and I welcome all of you to UPSC and you. This will be an orientation video for the Sherlocking Mains course. And I've launched a course a couple of weeks ago and I've been getting this pertinent request from a lot of students to then also make an orientation video of sorts. Already I made an orientation post. The link of the post you can find in the description box. And I just want to come out here and speak to all of you about my mindset about the examination. Course or no course, I am sure that by the end of the video, you would gain tremendous insights as far as preparing for UPSC mains is concerned. This video, I will, carry in a bilingual manner. I mean, a lot of times I get requests from people to also mix a little bit of Hindi so that it is equally accessible for a larger audience base, and I would happily oblige. So these would be the screenshots from the post that I shared on Telegram. And after watching the video, if you have any follow-up queries, you can go to the Telegram handle @helpdeskupsc and ask your follow-up queries there. Also, you can get added to the group for gaining access to a larger community wherein you can ask questions, if any, regarding UPSC or beyond. So this is a screenshot straight out of the post that I made on Telegram. So let me just make it absolutely clear as to what the pedagogy means. Pedagogy basically means पढ़ाने का तरीका. So पढ़ाने का तरीका, how is it different from other courses which are running in the market? Another question, which is a very legit question in my eyes, is that given the fact that market already has a lot of courses, with a lot of people with far more experience than I have. So then what is it? What is the value proposition that I promise to bring to the table? ऐसा क्या है जो आप कर रहे हो जो अभी तक नहीं हो रहा है? So I would intend to answer all those questions just in a few minutes. So पहले we will very briefly talk about pedagogy. पढ़ाने का तरीका. How is this pedagogy different from what actually exists in the market right now? So if I were an aspirant and if I were to see, because I were an aspirant until last month, and so if I were to see a brochure like this, what is that one question that would come in my mind, and what were the subsequent questions that I want to ask a facilitator about course that would make me actually decide whether I want to come in and be a part of the module or not. So सवाल ये है कि I write hand-holding based self-paced program, teaching the process, crisp, short, concise, focusing on economizing your biggest resource, which is time, so on and so forth. तो सीधी बात है यार, I do not know what is hand-holding, spoon feeding as an aspirant. मुझे साफ भाषा में बताओ कि क्या होती है spoon feeding, क्या होती है hand-holding. All of these are words. These are empty words unless you make me understand what do you mean by that. So of course, I would happily split the difference between hand-holding and spoon-feeding and how does it translate to on the ground. Most of the courses in my assessment in the market, they focus on spoon-feeding in the sense that you would be given a lot of content. बहुत सारी content का access मिल जाएगा, and the corresponding classes also focus on giving that content to you. कि अच्छा देखो ये लिखा हुआ है सेशन नंबर 1 के नोट्स के अंदर, सेशन नंबर 2 के नोट्स के अंदर ये लिखा हुआ है, and somebody would just read it out to you. You would be sitting in a class, and given that the content also would be really vast, so as to give you quote unquote a feeling of completion, तो वो classes का size भी बढ़ा हो जाता है. So in the end, what do you end up with? You end up with really long classes with really thick notes and no understanding of how do I apply these in the end, and why do you need to apply it. Let us understand. थोड़ा सा let's go in the थोड़ा सा let's take a step back and let's understand कि why are we here in the first place. मेंस के एग्जाम की डिमांड क्या है, और मेंस के एग्जाम की डिमांड अगर एक बार समझ में आ जाएगी तो you will also understand कि what can be a potential utility for a course, whether it is a course that I have designed, whether it is a course someone else has designed. Let us first understand डिमांड क्या है. सारा का सारा जो कोर्स का कंटेंट है वो उस डिमांड को मैच करने के लिए आइडियली बनाया जाता है. डिमांड बड़ी साफ सी है. You will have a 3-hour का पेपर, whether it is GS1, GS2, GS3, GS4, ethics, essay, doesn't matter. 3 घंटे का पेपर होगा, and in the end वो 3 घंटे का पेपर is going to be the only barometer on which you will be evaluated. साफ सी बात है, nobody knows, nobody can sit inside your mind and can gauge कि इसने कितना पढ़ा हुआ है, चाहे कितना भी पढ़ा हुआ हो. अगर आंसर कॉपी मेरे को ये कन्वे करी है कि दिस पर्सन डजंट नो हाउ टू आंसर, I cannot give him, marks that probably they potentially deserve. तो सारी कहानी है कि मैं 3 घंटे में ऐसा क्या लिखूं. पहली प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट है 3 घंटे में लिखना. इससे ज्यादा डिफिकल्ट सेकंड प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट इज whatever you write in 3 hours is going to be evaluated in less than 15 minutes. ये भी harsh reality. Nobody sits there in the back end and evaluates it in an hour. वो feasible नहीं है. तो जो भी 3 घंटे में लिखा जाएगा वो लगभग 15 मिनट में इवेल्युएट होगा. इसका मतलब ये है कि जो भी लिखा जा रहा है एक्स अमाउंट ऑफ टाइम के अंदर, वो 1/12 टाइम के अंदर इवेल्युएट हो रहा है. मतलब 12 मिनट में लिखा हुआ आंसर लगभग 1 मिनट में इवेल्युएट होगा. इसका दूसरा साफ मतलब भी है कि इवेल्युएशन इज वर्टिकल. इवेल्युएशन एक एक शब्द पढ़ के नहीं की जाती. जिस तरीके की इवेल्युएशन मोस्टली मार्केट में एग्जिस्ट करती है, और जिस तरीके से हम बहुत ओवर कॉशियस होकर लिखते हैं, यार लेट अस से आई मेक अ मिस्टेक इन सेकंड लाइन and I make a grammatical mistake. If I do not know that this evaluation is going to happen in 1/12 of the time, मैं इसको काटने में बिजी हो जाऊंगा, मैं इसमें परफेक्शन लाने में बिजी हो जाऊंगा, and then in the end I would not be able to optimize the use of my time. Time is a precious resource both outside the examination hall and in the examination hall. Once you come around to the fact that whatever you write in 3 hours will be evaluated in less than 15 minutes, that feeling sets you free. And then it changes your optimization problem. Optimization problem अब ये है, how do I finish the paper in 3 hours with the most relevant content, with an asterisk mark, with the caveat that when it is evaluated in 15 minutes, it conveys an impression to the examiner that yes, I understand, and yes, I'm competent enough to be, marked fairly, on the higher pedestal, and I'm deserving of becoming a civil servant. कहानी बड़ी साफ सी है. जो भी इसके अराउंड हो रहा है वो इस एंड गेम के लिए हो रहा है. तो बिगिन विद द एंड इन माइंड. एंड क्या है? आई हैव टू राइट 3 घंटे में ऐसा पेपर which when evaluated in 15 minutes gets me the highest potential score. इसका मतलब visibility of keywords, visibility of what is being asked has to be high. 1. Number 2, memory as an inherent limitation. तो मुझे पढ़ना भी बड़ा स्पेसिफिक और रिवाइज भी बड़ा स्पेसिफिक इतना सामान करना है जो एग्जाम में रिपीट किया जा सके. और वो पता कैसे लगेगा? उसकी प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट का सेकंड आयाम आ जाता है, which is the second pillar of our problem statement. I mean, just like in Buddhism, there were only 3 cardinal truths. बुद्धिज्म में क्या क्या सच थे? बुद्धा, धम्मा, संघ. ऐसे ही सीएससी के अंदर देयर आर ओनली 2 ट्रूथ्स. 2 सच है. पहला सच है सिलेबस, एंड सेकंड ट्रूथ इज प्रीवियस क्वेश्चन. एनीथिंग आउटसाइड द बाउंड्स ऑफ दीज 2 थिंग्स इज एन ओपिनियन. चाहे वो ये वीडियो के थ्रू मेरा ओपिनियन हो, चाहे वो किसी और की ओरिएंटेशन सेशन के थ्रू उसका ओपिनियन हो, चाहे कोई एग्जाम क्लियर करने के बाद अपना ओपिनियन जताए. एवरीथिंग इज एन ओपिनियन. सच दो ही एब्सोल्यूट, वो है प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चन और सिलेबस. बाकी सब कुछ ओपिनियन है. तो मैं कैसे ये डिसाइड करूं कि क्या पढ़ के मेरा सेलेक्ट होने का चांस सबसे बढ़ जाएगा? मैं ऐसा क्या पढ़ूं जो कि मुझे उस 3 घंटे में उन पेजेस में सबसे ज्यादा रेलेवेंट एंड विजिबल कंटेंट देने में सक्षम करेगा? दैट आंसर विल ओनली कम टू यू थ्रू द एनालिसिस ऑफ सिलेबस एंड प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चंस. तो ये प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट का दूसरा पिलर हो गया. तो पहले भी अंडरस्टूड व्हाट इज द डिमांड. 3 घंटे में लिखना है जो 15 मिनट्स में इवैल्यूएट होगा. नंबर 2, वी हैव अंडरस्टूड द ट्रूथ, 2 कार्डिनल ट्रूथ्स, सिलेबस और प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चन. जो भी तैयारी होगी, जो भी पढ़ाई करनी है, इन्हीं के अराउंड करनी है. अब ये कहने में तो बहुत आसान बात हो जाती है, बट मैं करूं कैसे? अब मैं क्या बहुत मोटी मोटी किताबें पढ़ूं? वेदर आई शुड गो बैक एंड परचेज थिक नोट्स, थिक कोचिंग के नोट्स, एंड देन हाउ डू आई रियलाइज कि व्हाट इज इंपॉर्टेंट, व्हाट इज नॉट. इन सब चीजों को ध्यान रखते हुए आई हैव डिजाइन दिस मॉड्यूल, एंड विच ब्रिंग्स मी टू द डिलीवरेबल्स. डिलीवरेबल्स पे मैं 2 मिनट के अंदर आऊंगा. लेट मी जस्ट फिनिश पहले वाला चैप्टर जो मैंने बोला था. इसलिए दैट इज व्हाई आई से आई डोंट फॉलो अ लीनियर पैटर्न, बिकॉज फॉर मी लीनियर पैटर्न गेट्स बोरिंग एंड देन इट गेट्स वेरी एकेडमिक. और उसमें कई बार क्या होता है, रेजोल्यूशन ऑफ द ट्रूथ इज लेफ्ट आउट. मेरा काम एक फीलिंग ऑफ कंप्लीशन देने से ज्यादा एक्चुअल आपको एक एम्पावरमेंट और एक डायरेक्शन देना है. that also gets you the feeling in the longer run that yes, now I am competent enough to do things on my own. I don't want you to depend on me till the end of time. That is what I essentially mean when I say that this is going to be hand holding than spoon feeding. Spoon feeding के हमने नुकसान देख लिए, बहुत लंबी लंबी वीडियोस मिलती है जिसमें कोई एप्लीकेशन से ताल्लुकात नहीं होता है. एप्लीकेशन इन दी एंड है, मुझे आंसर लिखना है ऑन विच आई विल बी इवैल्यूएटेड. Doesn't matter how much I know internal security. If within the constraint, every year you have 50 marks worth of paper from internal security. If you cannot, write answers to those 50 marks worth of questions in a way in which, the examiner thinks, or examiner is left with an impression that you understand, all of that effort is futile. एप्लीकेशन के बारे में कोई नहीं बात करता. एवरीबडी गिव्स यू कंटेंट कि देखो ये कंटेंट है, अब इट इज डाउन टू यू, तुम उसको याद कर लो, गो इन द एग्जामिनेशन हॉल एंड अप्लाई. हाउ डू आई अप्लाई? दैट हाउ इज नेवर टेकन केयर ऑफ, पहली बात. तो हैंड होल्डिंग इज ऑल अबाउट, rather giving you a process to self study, and I'm available for doubts. So I'm not going to give you content. This is not going to be a content intensive course, but I will point you towards the content कि देखो ये 6-7 potential sources है. You can refer the source of your choice. This examination is source independent, but I will give you the process. I will give you illustrations कि उस source को use कैसे करना है, और उसके बाद I will be available for doubts. Let's say you apply a certain idea, but you're stuck. If you have a one size fits all, you have no way forward. But that is where the role of weekly or meetings that take place at least once in 2 weeks comes into play. I take a live doubt session. You can come in, ask me, listen, this is where I'm stuck. Please help me with this. And then with my experience, with my insights, I will, ensure that you don't get stuck at the same problem statement. So this is not going to be content intensive. Rather, this is going to be process intensive. That is what I mean by that. Content intensive, I would repeat, is giving you a lot of content and then leaving the onus on you. Now you have the content, karo. If you're not doing it, it is on you. But it is all about knowing the process. If you know the process, content ke liye to market bhari hui hai. Then it's a matter of just applying the process with the source of your choice. And again, another, I think, fallback, another issue rather of going for content intensive courses is that everyone who has enrolled in the course, they have the same content. तो content differentiation कहाँ है? अगर examiner same ही चीज बार बार पढ़ेगा, why will you be awarded more compared to someone who has written exactly the same points, exactly in the same order? If you understand, you can refer multiple sources, but it's a matter of knowing how to extract relevant information from them and then compiling them and then being able to apply them. That is where the differentiation comes in. This is all about pedagogy, पढ़ाने का तरीका, साफ शब्दों में. Now let's come to deliverables. कि चलो ये तो सारी बात हो गई ऊपर की कि पढ़ाएंगे कैसे. Now tell me deliverables. As a student, I'm a student. मेरे को क्या मिलेगा? What should I expect? So again, those deliverables for me are pretty clear. Whether you enroll in the course, whether you do not enroll in the course, if you follow this process, I guarantee you, I'm sitting here, I guarantee you, you appear in mains. If you have to appear in mains this year, let's say you've gotten the chance to appear in mains, you go appear in mains, you follow this process, I guarantee this is as good a shot as you're going to get to clear the exam. Process bada saaf hai. It is all about executing it now. The entire point of making this course was to help you with the execution. If you can execute it yourself, you don't need me. You don't need any course. But this process is tried and tested. सालों साल का चलाया हुआ process है. I have developed it over last 5 years after, seeing a lot of different people, getting through to the other end and clearing the exam, and then a lot of people who were unfortunate, who were not able to clear. So after getting, taking all of that into consideration is how I have designed these, these deliverables. This process works. Process बड़ा साफ है. पहले तो you have to understand the syllabus and you have to break the syllabus and develop an understanding कि syllabus में वो कहना क्या चाहता है. अब ये तो हो गई ऊपर की बात कि अच्छा syllabus तोड़ना है, syllabus पढ़ना है, and you have to understand. What do you mean by that? तो इसकी illustration मैंने बना रखी है एक internal security की वीडियो के थ्रू. I will put the link on the top right section. अभी एक वीडियो का पॉपअप मिलेगा यहाँ पे. Click on it and go see the illustration, number 1 deliverable की syllabus parsing की, and get started with it. Come back to this video after watching this. ताकि you develop an understanding on what do I mean by parsing of syllabus. अगली चीज, सिलेबस समझ में आ गया. What was the second truth? Second truth was, previous year question mapping. ये देखना previous year questions का completely random है, or have they been following a particular pattern. That will only come with practice. That will only come when you look at the questions over and over again. ये चीज भी अगेन उस वीडियो पे मैंने कर रखी है. तो आई हैव फर्स्ट broken the syllabus of internal security in smaller digestible chunks, so as you can understand, so as to make you understand ये syllabus है क्या. और उसके बाद वी हैव लुक्ड एट क्वेश्चंस फ्रॉम 2013 टू 2021, ये देखने के लिए कि, और आई थिंक रादर टिल 22, ये समझने के लिए कि वो क्वेश्चंस क्या रिपीट हो रहे हैं. एंड व्हेन यू सी दैट पैटर्न, both of these things are available on the video on the top right section that you saw, I think couple of minutes ago. Go to that video on internal security. This will clear your doubt. तो जो चीज हमने इंटरनल सिक्योरिटी के लिए छोटे लेवल पे यहाँ की है, आई एम गोइंग टू डू इट एज अ पार्ट ऑफ द कोर्स फॉर द रेस्ट ऑफ द मॉड्यूल्स टू. If you don't enroll in the course, you can do it yourself. Take, inspiration, take the hint from this video. दो काम हो गए. हमने पहले प्रीवियस ईयर क्वेश्चंस समझ लिए उस सिलेबस की थीम पे जो यूपीएससी ने दिया हुआ है. अब नेक्स्ट स्टेप क्या आता है? नेक्स्ट स्टेप आता है कुछ बेयर मिनिमम कंटेंट को डेवलप करना पड़ेगा. एक बेयर मिनिमम कंटेंट बेस लाना पड़ेगा. वो कंटेंट बेस कुछ भी हो सकता है. वो कंटेंट बेस एक बुक हो सकती है. इट कैन बी योर ओन कोचिंग नोट्स दैट यू मेड. मे बी यू एनरोल्ड इन अ कोचिंग समवेयर, उसके कुछ नोट्स होंगे. या लेट्स से यू हैव टॉपर्स नोट्स नाउ. तो बेस कुड बी एनीथिंग. द चैलेंज इज हाउ डू आई यूज दोज नोट्स, क्योंकि नोट्स होंगे बहुत बल्कि. अब इंटरनल सिक्योरिटी में से 50 मार्क्स के क्वेश्चन आने वाले हैं. अगर मैं इसमें 100 पेज के नोट्स पढ़ लूं, लेकिन मैं वो 100 पेज के नोट्स पढ़ने के बाद ये आइडेंटिफाई ना कर पाऊं कि व्हाट इज इंपॉर्टेंट, व्हाट इज नॉट, रीडिंग दोज 100 पेजेस, दैट बिकम्स एन एक्सरसाइज इन फ्यूटिलिटी. तब मुझे क्या करना है? तो दैट इज गोइंग टू बी द थर्ड डिलीवरेबल, कि मैं बेस मटेरियल कैसे पढूं और खुद का कंटेंट एक किसी और के कंटेंट से कैसे डेवलप करूं. हाउ डू आई टेलर मेड, हाउ डू आई टेलर फिट इट फॉर माई सेल्फ. ये होगा थर्ड डिलीवरेबल. उसके बाद हम कुछ बात करेंगे आंसर राइटिंग पे, कि आंसर राइटिंग के बेसिक सिद्धांत क्या क्या है. व्हाट आर दोज बेसिक प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ आंसर राइटिंग इन अ वेरी क्रिस्प एंड कंसाइज फैशन. मोटे मोटे प्रिंसिपल्स देख लेंगे जहां से यू विल बी रेस्ट श्योर्ड दैट यू विल स्कोर अबव एवरेज एटलीस्ट. पहले तो हमें इंश्योर करना है कि हम एवरेज के तो ऊपर जाए, एंड आफ्टर यू गो बियॉन्ड दैट लेवल, उसके बाद सम मैटर ऑफ हार्ड वर्क. The more work you put in, the more returns you'll get. But first, to go from 0 to 50 is the most difficult thing. So through this module on art of answer writing, which is a part of the Sherlocking Mains Module, you'll understand the basic tidbits. You will get started, and you'll know कि proper process क्या है. How do I execute all these principles on the ground? अभी तक we are just ये सारी theoretical बातें हो रही है. इसका एक important आयाम और है, वो है content enrichment and knowing how to write answers, which is an extension of this through the analysis of available toppers copies. Everybody says that you should analyze topper copies which are available, but question is मैं करूं कैसे? How do I do it? मैं उसमें क्या देखूं, मैं उसमें से क्या लूं? Let's say there are certain questions which are very niche. I know this question is not going to repeat. तो क्या मैं ये question skip कर दूं completely? और क्या मुझे अब भी कुछ कंटेंट मिलने वाला है? Am I still going to get certain, still a certain level of content from this copy that I can employ in n number of different ways? तो ये भी we are going to see now. ये कहां से मिलेगा? तो इसकी I will put a demo video. एक तो demo video I have put for ethics. You will find the link on the top right section. एक ethics की वीडियो के लिए. Towards now, after you see this section being discussed, अब मैं इसी सेम वीडियो में ऐड कर दूंगा वो 4 डिफरेंट क्वेश्चंस फ्रॉम GS1, GS2, GS3 और एथिक्स की केस स्टडी के लिए क्वेश्चंस जो मैंने मॉड्यूल में बना रखी है शर्लॉकिंग मेंस में, जो कि अगेन एक डेमो वीडियो की तरह काम करेगा, एंड यू विल सी द क्वालिटी दैट इज बीइंग डिलीवर्ड इन द कोर्स. तो ये काम कैसे किया जाएगा? आई विल इलस्ट्रेट ओनली थ्रू वन वीडियो, ओनली थ्रू रादर वन टॉपर कॉपी. अगर एक कॉपी से यू अंडरस्टैंड द प्रिंसिपल, उसके बाद इट इज योर जॉब टू गो बैक and execute the same principles on other copies. And then in the weekly sessions that happen at least once in 2 weeks, you can come back to me. If you have any follow-up questions, I'd be open to discussing those questions with you. So let's start with the case study now. So again, when I'm scavenging the copy, I don't broadly, care for the exact questions that are being asked. I just care for the way this person is crafting their response to a case study. And are there any more generic tools that I can employ across the spectrum? So I just quickly come to the question while I'm analyzing a copy myself. I come to the case study and I see that introduction is just an encapsulation of the theme. And this is an art, encapsulation of theme. Whatever was spoken about in 200 plus words in the question has been encapsulated. The core theme has been encapsulated in 3.5 lines. And this is the keyword. The given case study brings to the fore. All of this is empty word. All of these are empty words. What is that, core theme? Public behavior of celebrities and influencers. And for this, the exercise is simple. How do you do this? I will speak about this again in, when I speak about answer writing and speak about, case studies, but I'll still, give you the exercise. I'll just make a note of this, lest I forget to do this later on. Great, anyway, I'll come back to it and I'll remind myself again. The exercise is fairly simple. You read editorials, and while you're reading editorials, give every paragraph a theme. Similar to this. This is the exercise you need to practice to train your mind to, encapsulate whatever is written, in so many words, to economize it in these many words. You understand, exercise is fairly simple. You take an editorial and every paragraph will have roughly like 50 to 50-ish words, around 50 plus words. If you could encapsulate the theme of those 50 plus words into 10 words, I think you'd be getting started to get to a point wherein now later on you can turn a 200 plus page paragraph and you can, get the core of the theme out from those 200 plus words and write that in 10-ish words. This is the exercise. This is my first takeaway. Then we see that, this person wrote about ethical issues, public trust, by line this and this. So we see that ethical issues this, and then this is, contextualization. So when I have to explain ethical issues, I will write the ethical issue and then we will contextualize it from the given case study. So this is a common ethical issue. I'll make a note of this. All right. And once I start doing this exercise, sooner or later, I'll have a pool of 25 to 40, around 25 to 40 ethical issues, which will retrofit everywhere. Everywhere you can, retrofit those ethical issues. So the first ethical issue is violation of public trust. It's a very common ethical issue. And contextualization will change based on the case study. Then entertainment based on sports while the world deals with pandemic, crisis of conscience. Another ethical issue, crisis of conscience. So here the person has to bring, or to mix things up. This person has given the example first, and then given the ethical issue later. A different tool, so that things do not look monotonous. So another ethical issue, crisis of conscience. Compulsory mandate as against someone's autonomy by forcing conformity. So again, compulsory mandate against autonomy, forcing conformity. So this is again, another standard ethical issue you can directly make note of. Initially, you'll be making note of all of these ethical issues because this is the first time you're seeing a copy hypothetically. Once you see, 7th or 8th copy, you'll see now a repetition of the same ethical issues coming up. And so instead of, reinventing the wheel, you can take those ready-made ethical issues and then instead, brainstorm over the same ethical issues and think in what different contexts can you employ the same ethical issue. Your job should be not of scavenging per se. Your job should be that of cognition, of thinking. And that is the entire, point of this course. Lack of scientific and rational acumen, vaccine hesitancy, this keyword was in vogue, and this person was able to connect the case study, case study connection with current affairs. And this is another ethical issue, scientific, lack of scientific and rational acumen. Also, remember, this is a part of our, I think, fundamental duties to develop scientific temper. So connect fundamental duties and you connect that violation of that fundamental duty, you create an ethical issue out of it. This is how points have to be connected. Otherwise, how will you make 6 ethical issues out of one simple case study? You have to use common sense. Organizations greed for money against rule compliance to ensure public well-being. So greed for money can be another ethical issue. Greed for money. People justifying Samuel's actions that are morally repugnant. So justification of morally repugnant actions, another ethical issue. And these ethical issues are also seen from the perspectives of different stakeholders. That is another way to create ethical issue. What are the ethical issues involved? From the point of view of the individual, from the point of view of the organizer, from the point of view of the public, from the point of view of the nation. These are the person. From individual, you see that there was a lack of scientific and rational acumen from his end, and the compulsory mandate against one's autonomy by organization. But then organizers were also greedy for money. Two ethical issues we created from the perspective of organizers. Created this one issue from the perspective of public at large. Then, again, this is public at large. This again from the individual's perspective. So two each leads you to 6 ethical issues. And once you practice enough with these frameworks, creation of n number of ethical issues will not be a problem. The problem is not content. You can't have enough content on your hands ever. And then even if you were to get into a position wherein you have a lot of content, memory will always let you down. So if you start thinking in terms of how do I create points based on commonsensical approaches, that I believe is the most handy strategy out there. Opinion on vaccine mandates, I think this must have been the second part. Violation of individual liberty as against bodily autonomy, one can change. So this was the first point. And right to follow one's conscience. Again, you're seeing the same keywords from ethics syllabus being used. My point is to understand how these, points are being created. Conscience, bodily autonomy. Bodily autonomy again is a point which can be readily used in a lot of context. We use this also in that question on abortion. Bodily autonomy. One can choose to not believe in their efficacy based on private beliefs. Beliefs is another point. I think it is there in the syllabus. Belief, conscience, state's despotic mandate against modern notion of individual right. State despotism. Another point I'll make note of because I can use it in a lot of context. State's despotism. A reasonable restriction on personal freedom. Vivekananda society first. Again, this is another generic approach that I get. I can use Vivekananda's society first dictum in a lot of case studies. I have personally made a note of 4 or 5 of these, and you can make a compendium of 20-30 of these if you just go through 10-12 such copies. I believe this is the gold mine nobody is speaking about. Everybody will tell you to go to a topper's copy. Nobody is telling you how to gain content from that exercise. One is a part of society, should be respectful to others' rights and reduced contagion. And this keyword was from the current context. Current affairs, COVID was in news, and probably that is why this case study was asked. And you connect that keyword from current affairs. So current affairs based keywords can also come in handy. So Vivekananda society first is a good approach, wherein say that society has to come before the individual. Society before individual, and of course the meaning lies within its name. J.S. Mill's harm principle, harm to one's individual liberty for greater good, another principle, can be used in n number of contexts. Gandhiji's talisman, you have to take care of the last person in the line. Right? Vaccine mandates are a violation of individual liberty, but they are a necessary check for utilitarianism. And then you see the beauty lies in contextualization. Ideally, you can write Vivekananda society first anywhere. But the beauty comes in wherein you connect it to the demand of the case study. Again, harm principle, how do you connect it? How is harm principle relevant here? That only comes with practice. The first thing is having those tools of having this on your disposal. Point number one. Another is then translation of these tools based and retrofitting those tools in the context of the case study. That will only come with practice. There is no shortcut to it. But once you've seen it at play once, your mind will now start to process it, and then it'll help you create more such correlations. So ethical responsibility of famous personalities. Good role modeling. Again, a generic point. I don't know if we've made a note of this point. I think we have role modeling living university, that point, question number 2 or 3. If it is a repeat, I won't make a note of it, otherwise I will. Emotionally intelligent behavior. See, the same keywords from the syllabus are being lifted and you're writing them down in a structured manner. And then contextualization. Contextualization is an art, and knowledge is knowing how to generate the content. And it's a lethal combination. Positive attitude, again, syllabus keyword. If mandate disallowed Samuel participated, he should have skipped the tournament with a positive attitude. Social influence, another generic keyword. Conformity, we have already seen, that keyword of conformity when looking at the ethical issues, mandate to conform. And then conformity flows out of it. You can use conformity in a number of ways. So this case was seen during Australian Open. This was, again, cherry on the top. If the context, if you know why this case study is asked, more often than not, that case study has something to do, is a fictionalized version of a real event. And so again, I happen to know this event, and this was a cherry on the top, shows your awareness. Showing vaccine hesitancy, public figures should ensure that they always uphold the highest order of compliance. Again, a forward-looking, positive and state-centric mandate, state-centric conclusion. In the end, you have to represent the state. It is very easy to focus on individual liberty and let go of the state mandate. But right now, you're not writing as a representative, uh, or you're not writing as an entrance exam for an NGO. To be honest, you have to be hyper aware of that. You're writing this exam to become a part of the state. So always that perspective should take precedence. And that is how, one should conclude, can possibly conclude this. Next question. Indo-Pacific reflects the area of or arena of confluence of two seas as described by Japanese PM Shinzo Abe. I will again make note of this. Absolutely make note of this. Can be used for Indo-Pacific related relations. Every year as of late, we've seen a question being asked in this maritime context. So verbatim, I'll make a note of this if this already is not there in my notes. Right? Indo-Pacific, Australia, Asia, again, knowing map drawing really comes in handy. I will make a separate session as a part of the course on how to very quickly draw effective maps. Interdependence of the two power blocks of Asia and America, which will shape the 21st century. 90% of world's trade moves through this region, contains various choke points like Strait of Malacca, choke points. Another keyword, choke point. 90% of trade moving through Indo-Pacific. Another data point, another fact I'll make note of. I can conjure these notes up in the examination hall. I can make points based on frameworks. So I will only make note of trivial points which will bring specificity and which otherwise cannot be created in the examination hall. Number 3, growing alliance to counter China's influence and militarization in South China Sea. Though always you can bring to the table a China-related point. China's influence and militarization. Always, I'll make note of this, whether it is in context of India-Africa relations. You can say that China's role is increasing. China is creating military bases. China is creating military bases across the world. And that is why this point, again, becomes a generic point for me. China's influence and militarization. In South China, you can call it. In Africa, you can change it to in Central Asia. And interpenetration. As Indo-Pacific is a shared space, and what happens one region implications in another. Shared space. Deep diplomatic and geostrategic ties and grouping like Quad linking the two. Geostrategic ties. ASEAN centrality. ASEAN centrality. So again, these three again are generic keywords which can be used in a lot of different contexts. And I can't, since I'm not an expert in international relations, I can't create these keywords myself. So I'll make separate note out of those. This interdependence and is reflected in India's vision of free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific, FYP, free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific. Do you see how many generic keywords you're getting your hands on? And you can very easily, readily use these in answers. And it seeks to emerge as a net security provider, similar keyword that we've used in the last question, and ensure peace and prosperity for all in the region. Peace and prosperity, again, a rhetorical device, peace and prosperity, PNP. Peace and prosperity. I think we have seen a similar keyword before. Even if you have not, you can make note of this now. Number one, I don't care for the context because I'm scavenging from the copy. Let's see. Maybe the question is on cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency based on blockchain technology is becoming becoming highly debated for its potential use and misuse based on blockchain. So keyword, cryptocurrency, blockchain, everybody knows it. It's a matter of actually writing it on the ground. Creation of digital currency. Question must be on digital currency then. Minimizes transaction cost. Easy and quick transmission of monetary policy. Financial inclusion. Leveraging the use of technology. Seamless flow of transactions. Anonymity as well as transparency. Now see, how are these points being written? So any endeavor has a goal of reducing the cost. One generic point you can use. It's a question on currency. Currency has something to do with monetary policy. You write a point on monetary policy based on the keyword which was there. Financial inclusion, again, role of any financial policy, financial inclusion. I will make note of this. Any question on financial initiative will have this one point on financial inclusion. Leveraging the use of technology. Technology, again, point from GS3, generic point, keyword based point. Seamless flow of transactions. Again, currency, something to do with transactions. This, again, doesn't have to be scavenged like any other point because you can create this point from the context which is currency. Currency is used for transaction. And finally, anonymity as well as transparency. Again, anonymity and transparency flow from a role of digital, from the role of blockchain. So if you see, all these 6 points can be created from one framework or the other, either from the context of the question or from your GS-based framework or from the generic keywords you can use with respect to the theme on which the question was asked. So nothing worth scavenging worthy for me, but I'll just reaffirm the process that has brought me till here. Concerns for macroeconomic stability. As it is a decentralized currency, again, what is the criticism? Since it is decentralized, difficult to control. Lack of effective regulatory mechanism. Again, one generic point you can write for criticizing any initiative, any domain. You have any domain you can think of. You can see that you can write rather that it is not effectively regulated. High validity in prices due to volatility in prices, due to speculative demand. Again, comes from the context of blockchain. We know that blockchain, cryptocurrency, can fall and does fall prey to speculative demand. Uncertain impact on monetary policy. Again, uncertainty. Another generic point, uncertainty. We do not want uncertainty. And in a way, 4 is an extension of number 2 due to the lack of regulation is why this entire system is uncertain. But this is the whole beauty. That is why I keep saying answer writing is an art. You can create multiple points with the same theme in mind. Options for regulations. Banning the cryptocurrency. Again, quash the RBI circular earlier, banning. So how do you regulate anything? These are the generic points. As far as regulation is concerned, you can ban. That is one way to regulate. What else? Making it as a part of country's official currency. Making it official. Example. So this is, again, I would repeat, the entire point of reading current affairs. You don't have to read it in detail. You just need to have enough examples, contextual, committees, data points that you can use to substantiate your point. Most of the points, 70% plus points, can be created on the go. Adopting central government cryptocurrency, bringing out digital currency, for example, China. So you see 3 different points speaking about the same with slight tweaks. Speaks about official currency. This speaks about central government's cryptocurrency. So it is not official currency, but it is central government's cryptocurrency. Separate currency exists, and this is supposed to be used in tandem with that. And bringing out digital currency, third. Most appropriate for India to develop a central government and digital currency will provide the benefits of crypto and blockchain while minimizing potential threat. This will ensure India's thrust towards digital India. Again, you see, all of these points are commonsensical. Nothing that you need to read a book for. What do you need to read a book for? For these examples, you need to read current affairs. And I'll also separately speak about, covering current affairs. El Salvador, this example. These are generic examples. Banning and making something official. Ways to regulate. There could have been more, options you could have write institutionalization, making a separate institution to regulate, to oversee, or making it a part of, or making it come under the purview of RBI's jurisdiction. You can write a lot of points without explicitly banning it. You ensure that the speculative side is curbed, but at the same time, the efficacy in terms of anonymity and in terms of transparency stays how it is. So you leverage the benefits without by bypassing the issues that are stopping you from adopting it completely. Next question. So again, and also see how neatly the answer is written. You have points, everything, the entire space looks filled by and large, and the overall, the overall look of the answer also looks appropriate, because aesthetics also matter after a certain point in time. They do. So next question. So the first question is about individual satyagraha. Let's see if we can find out patterns. So it says individual satyagraha of 1941 was Indian response to the failure of August offer of 1940. Right? Individual satyagraha. So I see the first pattern. Like, what do I scavenge out of it? This is a question from modern Indian history. And so in history, years are important. Some people ask me, whether we should remember the exact dates. I do not think that is important. As long as you remember the rough year, the rough timeline is what you need to remember. So that is my first takeaway. Years add a lot of value as far as an answer on history is concerned. And every event has to be connected with one of the major events. There are a lot of major events that happen. Formation of Congress, satyagrahas, the partition movement, the non-cooperation movement, civil disobedience movement, Quit India movement. You should have an idea about all of these individual, watershed moments, and then find out connected events. So individual satyagraha was one such connected event with August offer of 1940. So that is why, instead of going back to your source for modern history, which in all possibility should be spectrum, in my opinion, rather than scavenging through the entire book again, you should only selectively focus on such broad events, and then have an overarching idea of what were the other connected events, so that you can write an impactful introduction. The moment you see an introduction like this, the examiner now knows that you know the context, and it leaves a strong impression on them. So what is my first takeaway? Modern Indian history, years are important. So whatever event that you're reading about, make a point of at least remembering the rough timeline, and then knowing the connected events with major, watershed moments. So that is what one needs to prepare. That will take care of most of your introductions in history, at least. Major watershed moments. Well thought out strategies. So heads are aligned. Alignment of heads. That is what I understand out of it. I have to, align heads based on how they were in the question. It was pre-planned and involved only leaders, as masses were not yet ready for the revolt. Pre-planned and involved only leaders, as masses were not yet ready for it. The wartime and political turmoil in Europe, Gandhiji didn't want to trouble Britain and swore to safeguard democracy. So this is one structure that comes to my mind. So probably this is related to the context. This will come from a content rather. If you read about the event, you'd know, such and such things would have happened. This is, you connect a domestic event with the international sphere. So something was happening outside India. What correlation did it have? Any correlation on the event that was happening? If there's a question on civil disobedience movement, what was the impact of outside events, or did the events of civil disobedience movement impact any outside events? So that is one framework that I get. Correlation of domestic with international and international with domestic. I'll make a note of this framework. This is a very generic framework, can be used in a lot of contexts. 3. Due to political repression by British as preemptive steps to curb freedom, individual satyagrahis marched from village to village to reaffirm their freedom. So due to political repression, this is another keyword, and you see underlining. She's underlying all the important keywords. So underlining becomes important, and then taking in these keywords becomes important. Political repression. Wherever there's a question on modern Indian history, you can readily use this keyword. What else? To curb freedom of speech. Again, freedom of speech, curb on freedom of speech again was a common feature of the British colonial rule in India. So this is also something I'm going to readily make use of, no matter what the context is. I know there would have been curbs in freedom of speech. So now I have two ready-made points. Whether you club those points to create one as she has done is down to you, or whether you want to make separate points out of it is down to your uh, your approach. Also notice that she's not just writing mind map like points. She's not writing political repression curbing freedom of speech. Right? Could have written it, but this gives more context. This is more holistic. We discuss this, and even if you're not, I'll discuss it again. What does the Gazette notification say? Gazette notification says these are conventional essay type papers, and this is, I think, what the presentation should be like in a conventional essay type paper. The social morale of people was kept alive in war times and prevented a period of death. So social, again, she's now bringing in points from the social domain, from that framework of society, economy, polity. So again, frameworks are still going to be relevant no matter, what the header of the syllabus is. Even if it's history, you can always bring a point from politics. This was a point from politics. Again, a point from politics. This was content oriented, and this was related to society. You bring a point from society. And stage for Quit India movement, then part number 2. Prepared people for the ultimate action. Probably, you write things in double quotes when it's a direct lift off from, a famous writer. So probably someone defined Quit India movement as, ultimate action. And that is how you can use it. So maybe if there's a question on Quit India movement again, in your notes, you can directly make use of this because you can't go back to the original source now. So it's better to scavenge these, tidbits from these copies. So ultimate action, I will use whenever there's a context of Quit India movement. Arrest of leaders like Vinoba Bhave angered and energized people. So again, Vinoba Bhaveji was associated with Quit India. If you knew it, well and good. If you did not, I'll make a note of it. When I make my mind map, like, notes for Quit India movement, very brief note, and I will also speak about note making in one of the sessions. I will make a note of the fact that Vinoba Bhaveji was, at the forefront. British reaction to Satyagraha and crackdown, believe that time has come for a full-blown effort from Indian independence. So again, British crackdown is a generic common theme I get out of it. No matter what the moment, 9 out of 10 times there would be, British crackdown on that, on that event. So I will use this readily again, at least one of the points in a modern Indian history question. The cry of Delhi Chalo echoed by Satyagrahis, though was not powerful enough, it set the stage for Do or Die call by Gandhiji. So again, how well she has concluded, but again, instead of just applauding for other people, you should know what can you possibly get from this answer. And that is again this keyword of the cry of Delhi Chalo and Do or Die. Karo ya maro. Do or Die, Delhi Chalo. That is it. So what are the scavenging worthy points for me when I analyze it? What do I get out of it? I understand the framework for introduction. Years are important. Knowing, connecting them with the major watershed moments, alignment of heads needs to be important. And I'll keep making a note of this in one common comprehensive diary, and I'll keep going over these, notes I'm making over and over again until they become my, part of my muscle memory. Content, I'll prepare separately. I won't make a note of this here. What do I make a note of? I make a note of this framework that I can connect every Indian event with something that might have been happening outside, and vice versa. There's a question on IR. I can also think of how a domestic event would have a fallback, would have a correlation on that international event. Political repression again is a common point. Curb freedom of speech. You can readily use them in any context. If there's a question on modern Indian history, you can be rest assured there'll be political repression and there would be curb on freedom of speech. You know that the frameworks also work like a charm. That is what I get out of it. I will separately, as I have promised, speak about these frameworks again for people who are not aware, who have not attended my sessions before. And stage for Quit India movement, ultimate action. I will now add these points under my flash notes for Quit India movement. I'll add these names, British crackdown, another generic point, and I'll connect cry of Delhi Chalo Do or Die in my notes, and that is what I scavenge. This art is really important. Let's go to question number 2. अभी तक हमने क्या कर दिया? हमने सिलेबस समझ लिया, प्रीवियस क्वेश्चंस को मैप कर दिया, एक बेसिक कंटेंट डेवलप कर लिया, और साथ ही साथ टॉपर्स कॉपी देख के एक एनालिसिस हो गई कि हाउ शुड यू राइट आंसर्स, प्लस आंसर राइटिंग के कुछ थ्योरी के सेशंस हो गए, बहुत शॉर्ट और बहुत क्रिस्प। अब फाइनली एक चीज आ जाती है कि हाउ डू आई टाई एवरीथिंग टुगेदर, इस सब चीज को मैं एक साथ कैसे मिलाऊं, और वो हम देखेंगे 2020 टू 2022 के क्वेश्चंस को साथ में ब्रेनस्टॉर्म करके। अब देखो, मॉडल आंसर जैसी कोई चीज यूपीएससी के पास एग्जिस्ट नहीं करती जीएस के अंदर, तो व्हाई शुड यू बी गिवन मॉडल आंसर्स? इफ यू गेट द प्रोसेस यू कैन क्रिएट योर ओन आंसर्स। तो हम इन क्वेश्चंस में भी यही करने वाले हैं। जो 2020 से 2022 के पेपर है, हम इन सारे प्रिंसिपल्स को अभी तक जो हमने यूज किए और समझे हैं, उनको यूज करके हम एग्जीक्यूट करेंगे 2020 टू 22 के अंदर, एंड देन वील ब्रेनस्टॉर्म टू सी इफ वी कैन जनरेट अ लॉट ऑफ पॉइंट्स, एंड देन हाउ डू वी retrofit those points, and then what could be the value addition that we could have committed ourselves to in those questions. आई वुड रिपीट, ये मॉडल आंसर की एक्सरसाइज नहीं होगी, मॉडल आंसर बहुत आसान है देना, ज्यादा डिफिकल्ट काम है हाउ डू आई गिव यू द प्रोसेस, और वो प्रोसेस वी हैव डेवलप्ड ऑर्गेनिकली, पहले सिलेबस पढ़ के, सिलेबस समझ के, प्रीवियस क्वेश्चंस को मैप करके, थीम्स की रिपीटेशन देख के, कंटेंट खुद का डेवलप करके, दूसरों की कॉपी से उनसे हिंट लेके, एक आंसर राइटिंग का ओवर आर्चिंग अंडरस्टैंडिंग समझ के, और फिर सबको प्लग एंड प्ले करके 2020 से 22 के पेपर के अंदर। उसके बाद आई थिंक द यूएसपी of this program that I think people also saw in Sherlocking prelims was weekly or bi-weekly doubt brainstorming sessions, जहां हम कुछ लाइव आंसर्स डिस्कस करेंगे। तो यू कैन सेंड मी योर आंसर्स, and then I will discuss your answers in this session, so that you also understand कि evaluation कैसे हो रही है, बैक एंड पे जैसी evaluation होती है, we'll try to simulate it as close as possible live class के अंदर, and then you can ask wall of queries. We'll also keep seeing more illustrations of the same principles, और डाउट के लिए तो फोरम हमेशा ओपन हो गई। whenever you have doubts, you can wait for the meeting or you can share your doubt उसी टाइम पे हेल्प डेस्क यूपीएससी आईडी पे, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So if you are able to follow the process well, and if you execute it, and if you put time in improving the execution of the process, I assure you, success is going to be yours. And I think that is it from today's video. If you have any follow-up questions, you can leave your questions in the comment section. If you think someone else could benefit from the video, you can share the video. You can also ask your queries, personalized queries, queries which have nothing to do with the course, on the Telegram channel. Telegram channel link also you would find in the description box. I think that is it from my side. I wish you all the best, course or no course, and hopefully I will see you soon. Take care and best of luck.